Let's do something that is getting right down into Photoshop work with this picture of Balboa Park in San Diego. It's an old set of buildings that house museums and art galleries and displays. It's right across the area away from the San Diego Zoo, and it has the look of old Spain or some of the ancient world look to it. But it's got a few problems that we can solve very easily in Photoshop. There's a tool here called the cloning stamp. It looks like a rubber stamp. I don't know why they got the rubber stamp and a cloning stamp, but if I select that, it gives me, now I've got to go over here to my layers and go to the Balboa Park picture layer. And once I do that, it gives me then this circular glyph. Now, I go up here and it tells me here I've got 100, uh, the number 100 is what I'm looking at as far as the size of the brush. Now notice there's different sizes here, and some of them have a fuzzy edge and some of them have a hard edge. You want the fuzzy edge ones because that's what's going to make this airbrush looking thing work out well for you. Now 100 is a little big. As I bring this down here, I don't want it quite that big, so I'm going to select maybe 75 fuzz. Now I can slide it up here too, up and down, to see what size it gives. That 75 is not bad. Now, here's the problem with a lot of pictures. Look at the grass here. It's dying, and it's not really good looking there. So we can clean that up with like grass from just the nearby area. This cloning tool works this way. I take that arrow and I have to use my finger on my left hand with the Option key. And when I put the Option key down, it gives me a target. And I virtually take the target and place it right along this grass and cement line right here. I just place it right there, right on it, and click once with my mouse key, or left click. Now that took a picture of the pixels that are there. Now I bring this down and I line it up. You see how you can offline it? You can tell where it's on and off the edge of that cement. So I'm going to go there and just lay it in there so it's going to be right on that line of the cement. And then I'm going to click and see a little plus mark up on the top. Where that plus mark is, it's taking information and substituting over the top of that dirt. So I'm virtually filling in that grassy area, and I'm trying to take like for like. You know, see there's a little darker grass over here. See that little spindle right there? I'm going to shoot again here with the Option key, click, and I'm going to take out that sprinkler head or whatever that was there in the grass. And I'll clean up that yellow over there. And some of these spots that are not good, I'm going to clean them up a little bit. Now I could go find another piece of grass that was about the same consistency here and substitute that in, but I'm just taking like for like and not making the same ripples show up in the same place. But I'll just take this grass and fill it in over the dirt and over the scruffy grassy areas. Come back over here and get that line again and line it up and clean down the grass here. Now remember the sequence of events here. And you've got two little foot marks there that I want to clean up. You click on them, you line up the target, and then you click, hold down the Option key and click with the mouse, and that sets the target. And then you come down here and line it back up again, and then it pulls pixels from back there. Now if the grass is showing here, you got to get bigger grass as opposed to littler grass back there. See that line in the cement right there? If I can just take this and clean that line right up. And other little spots that I don't want. Up here at the top of the grass that's a little worn away, so I'll fill that in. So by the time I get through here, I've really made a very nice grass looking thing going on with that. And that's just enough to have cleaned up the picture so that now this can go, even though it's a cloudy day, this can go into a brochure or a poster or something. You could take out, see that man way across the way there? Way over here. I'm taking my magnifying tool and I'm going to zoom in on him. Now I've got to be careful that he has a little bit of reflection in his pond. I'm going to take my cloning tool, and it's a little big now. I'm going to go back to 75 and drop it all the way down to maybe 10. And then I'm going to take my Option key and I'm going to go up here across the top where that shadow is. And then I'm going to come down in here and I'm going to take off the top of his head. Now I don't go very far until I run out of stuff, so I have to take another shot of that shadow and come over here and come back down until I finally get the shadow and the pillar and his leg all the way down to that grass. See over here, there's a little bit of him in that reflection. So I'm just going to take out of that reflection just enough to take his head out of that reflection. Now go to the navigator thing and back it off again. And now I've got nobody. Well, there's some people on the bench over here. I could take them out. Whatever this is in the water, I could take them out. One other thing that's kind of fun, that is sort of imaginative or fantasy. Let's say they built the Washington Monument across the street from this park. Well, over here are my layers. I just happen to have the Washington Monument that I've taken and cut it out of its original photo and colored it about the same color as the stone in the buildings and put the Washington Monument there. But what's wrong with that picture? The reflection. So I had to take another picture, copy of the Washington Monument, turn it upside down, and sit it right in there. See where it starts here, it starts there. And now I cut it off here because it's the side of the pool, the edge is shutting it off. And I've cut back in here some of these water lilies. See how they come across here and break up the reflection of those palm trees? Well, the same thing, there were water lilies there, and I went back in and I actually took that layer, the Washington Monument copy, and I've made it 58% opacity. I click on this thing and I can slide that in and out to make it more transparent in that water, because the water would transport or be a little bit more transparent and not quite as bright. And so that layer, besides turning it upside down and cutting it off at the roof line and at the shoreline or at the edge of the water, I've made that happen. I'm going to turn off the bounding box, and there's the picture when I got through with it. Got good grass. One guy is missing out of the picture, and I got the Washington Monument sticking up behind this thing and its reflection showing in the water. There is actually a tool that if the water had wind blowing on it, rippling, I can ripple that the reflection, that shape of the Washington Monument, and make it look like the water was rippling. But it's pretty smooth water, and there you go. Now, one other thing I wanted to show you is, remember Navigator up here on this palette? I can slide this up and down, or I can work myself in and out of this picture. But look at history. Here's all the things I've done to this picture. I opened it up and I did a lot of clone stamping for that grass. And then I laid in the opacity change for the Washington Monument. I already had the Washington Monument in there. I took that piece and cut it in right up front. I don't know why it's not there, just all cloning stamp. But this records the history. So if for some reason I didn't like that, I could go back here and it steps me all the way back to before I even did that. But I don't want to do that, so I'm going to go back to my last one and click that in, and everything that I made is there. Now that lasts as long as I have this picture open. If I save this, and we should be saving as we go with all of our work, watch, File, Save As, and I'm going to save it as Balboa Park. I'm going to save it to the desktop. Now I could change that to other files that I would have open or whatever. I'm just going to save it to the desktop and then store it from there. And when I hit save and replace, if it was already on the desktop, now it's there with the changes I made and with the Washington Monument. Now that isn't the end of it, because at some point, and we'll talk about this later on, but at some point I have to come over here to these layers and say Flatten Image. I come up to these little three lines right here and open those up, and I get several choices. Flatten Image. That will take all these things and put them on one image, so that when I take this to a printer or process it someplace, instead of being 3 or 4 or 5 layers, it's one layer and it's ready to go. I'm going to leave it open for now in case they want. Well, it did choose it. I'm going to go Command Z and I get those back. But once I shut this down, that history all up here goes away. And when I open it again, it'll all be, if I have flattened it, it'll all be together. So sometimes you want to save it with the layers as they are and then flatten it and save it as the layers flattened. In case you need to go back and fix or change or remaneuver things, that's a good way to do that. So that's a very good application of taking an image and reworking it in Photoshop to make it even better.